we know the professors of IIT Kharagpur electrical department. They are the toughest,
Strictest, yeah.
the toughest and the strict. Electrical labs are really scary places.
So welcome guys to again a brand new episode on IT podcast with Somnath. Today I have again a very special guest. I used to be very close with him. He was my wingmate in the last 3 years that I was there, and he again has not only cracked IIT, he has also managed to crack IIM. And here he is, my friend TLN Gupthaji. So welcome to the show, Gupta.
Thank you, Somnath. Thanks for the warm welcome.
So you already know the flow of the podcast. We'll divide it into three parts, like before IIT, at IIT, and then beyond IIT. So if I get started with your life before IIT, how were you as a student growing up?
I'm a small town guy, basically. I grew up mostly in Gudivada, which is like one of a small town in Andhra Pradesh, right? I was decent in studies right from my childhood. Not the topper, but yeah, I was decently doing in studies and all. So yeah, so like suddenly I think around I always have an interest towards mathematics. Like I always used to do good in maths, like bachpan se. Like other than that, like I never had interest in social or like any other basic languages and all. I used to always like feel very bad in all other classes. Right, mathematics is something that used to interest me right from my childhood. So yeah, that's pretty
Was
much.
there any point कि you realized कि हाँ चलो maybe I'm not that great, decent हूँ, but I can achieve more.
So basically, like in our school, like when we were in eighth standard, right? Like we used to have two public examinations, like back then. One is seventh grade, and the other is tenth grade. Tenth grade is like public examination for almost all over the country, right? Like in Andhra Pradesh board, at least like we used to have seventh grade also public, right? And at that time, like people used to say like you need to pass seventh with such good marks and all, like you need to put all your efforts for seventh class and all, right? Like on all our theoretical papers, right? Like, and I used to be very bad in my handwriting. Like my handwriting is still bad. So I used to get a lot of scoldings from all my teachers saying that your handwriting is very bad and all, like. And even from all language teachers also, like my Hindi handwriting is also bad, Telugu handwriting is also bad, and even my social teachers, science teachers, everyone used to scold me to the peak, saying that this guy is like of no use. Like this handwriting is not going to take you anywhere, is what they used to say, right? Like till seventh I was like I was in the top section only, like I never went to like fourth or fifth sections sort of candidate. But yeah, I was not the topper of the school, but I was a decently doing student. After we cleared seventh standard, right? Like I was expecting out of 100 out of 100 on mathematics, which I couldn't clear on seventh class. So that at that time, that was like a big achievement in my life. I thought like I should achieve, because this is the only subject I do very well. So why not get the 100? And like even my, like, the teacher who was teaching us used to like me more in the class, like for that particular section. Right, so he was also expecting that I would get that 100 marks and all. But to fill in the blanks, I did some mistake, and like I couldn't clear. Like at that time, like right before my eighth class, I was so worried, and I was so tense. That is the one thing that I dreamt about, and I couldn't achieve. All those sort of feelings were there, right? In Andhra Pradesh, basically in our school, what used to happen is like we have a foundation wala setup, like which people call as IIT Foundation and all. So that generally starts from eighth class, right? In our school, it used to start from eighth class. Uh, like nothing much was used to be taught at that time, but they used to teach you some tough problems than what you generally do as an eighth standard student, right? That is when sort of like I used to crack all these tricky questions in mathematics, like all sort of olympiad questions, like some number questions and all. Like they used to be very tricky, and I got a sense of recognition from there, like saying, yeah, this guy does something good in maths or something. So that is when I felt like, okay, I'm decently doing, I can achieve something in my life, is what like I felt at that point of time.
Okay, so we'll come to your IT foundation life as well. So you said from 8th standard, you already know a little bit about IT and generally
Nothing.
start preparing. Do it or no?
Nothing.
Okay.
At the age of, really, to be frank, like at the moment people were introducing this eighth standard, like when we started eighth standard and all. People were saying, like a few of our teachers, like maths, physics, chemistry teachers, were saying that there is this opportunity, you can crack this examination, IIT and all, right? So I had no clue what IIT was when I was in eighth standard, to be very frank. So something that actually made me happy was those maths problems, right? Where I could solve, and the teacher used to call up on the board and say, "Ki, who has solved these problems and all," and he used to call me and ask me to explain everyone, like, how did you solve and all, like that sense of happiness I used to get. Maybe I found my dopamine from there at that point of time. And literally, like my seventh grade, like I was mentioning about my seventh grade, right? My seventh grade marks were okay, not that great, or like not the top marks, right? So like my parents were like my parents were not educated as such, right? Like my father has done his 10th standard, my mother didn't complete her 10th standard also, right? So even so they aren't aware of like what is life after 10th class, or like what is after what is IIT, or like where should you take your kids and all, right? So like my parents were worried, like this guy couldn't clear normal subjects, right? Why to put extra burden of putting all these subjects over his head? And like they actually reached out to my school saying that let's not continue him with the foundation wala part. It's just extra, you're adding extra burden to my son and all. But rather on, like my teachers realized that they know, like I was there in that school from right from my fourth standard. So they know me, they know my parents, they know what background I come from. So my teacher was like, okay, we'll look into it, don't worry, your son can do good and all. So that's where it started. Like it's a very long journey from then, from the point I reached to IIT, right? But yeah, that's where it started.
Okay. So given you said you mentioned about your handwriting, so was
Yeah.
engineering the only option? Because it seems like you were preparing for doctorship as well with the handwriting.
Not really. My dad wanted me to do medicine, right?
Mhm.
Like he was he realized that I am good at studies in my 10th standard. That's a very funny moment, like when he attended only one of the parent teachers meet that was conducted. And that is when my teachers are saying, like, this guy is a good student, he can crack things, he can do well and all. That is when he started saying, ki, leave all this IIT and all, let me get you into medicine, do biology and all. But I always wanted, I was always away from medicine and all, like I never wanted to become a doctor or all.
Coming to the rigor of the IT preparation, we have learned from some people in that region, but I also want to know about your personal experience with IT preparation in the Andhra region. How was
Yeah.
it for you?
I personally feel like the rigor is too high. Yeah. Like as I was saying, like right from eighth standard, you are pushed on with maths, physics, chemistry, like more emphasis on the, like more than what the standard of the schooling is, right? And the plus one and plus two are like completely rigorous, and just one dream in your mind to crack IIT exam, or like to end up into a good college. Unfortunately, I went through that rigor myself, right? It is very tough phase, I would say, right? Like at the age of 15, 16, and 17, like it's very tough for kids to handle that. But you don't have an option around also. Like basically, you are just carried away with what happens around you, right? So basically there are a lot of students who are your classmates previously, who are your classmates right now, or like who are your cousins and all, who are going through the same rigor, right? Like it is like, okay, plus one and plus two is supposed to be this rigorous, right? You're supposed to put in all your efforts to clear that examination, is what the notion has become so hard in these regions, at least. Like, yeah, it was very tough actually. That was my first time in hostel, staying away from my parents and all, plus one and plus two, right? It was very tough for me, because like I used to be like, I'm the only son in my family. Like I have three elder sisters, so I'm sort of a very pampered kid right from childhood. So it was very tough for me to go out of home and stay in a hostel, right? In a room where, like, in a small bed place, two people sleep on a bunk bed, like one above the other, right? It was very tough to use those common washrooms and all, right? Our timings are supposed to be also very very bad, like right from morning 6 o'clock to night 10:30, right? There were continuous study hours, classes and all. We used to have 1.5 hour break after lunch, and 1 hour break for evening snacks. That's all. Like, all the remaining time you are just going through the entire rigor, right? And sometimes, going back, I feel that, maybe such rigor wasn't necessary for a 15-year or 16-year-old kid, right? That's what my personal take is on it.
Do you remember any stories about your preparation time that
Yeah.
you will look back at it and like, okay, how did I do that?
Actually, what we used to do is, like, after 10:30, right? Like, we used to sit again, like we used to take a 15-20 minutes break, and we used to come back to the study hour and sit on ourselves, right? Like, to solve more problems, to solve different types of books and all. So I personally feel right now, like, maybe I wouldn't be able to do it right now, right? Putting such concentration into studies, right? Like, we like all the 2 years we used to be only one dream, right? Like, clearing IIT with a very very good rank, right? Our targets used to be much much tougher, right? So that was only thing that we clearly foresee for that 2 years, right? Even the entire management, entire students around you, entire teachers around you are pushing you so much to achieve that goal. Maybe, like, they are doing it for certain good, like, maybe for, like, maybe we wouldn't have end up here making that good results if that trigger was not there. But I personally feel like maybe that trigger isn't that needed. You need to be pushed, like, you need to you need to push yourself for that examination. I completely agree with that, but maybe less rigorous, maybe spending time on many other things, right? Like, many other things could have been taught, right?
Mhm. It's not well rounded, is what I hear, right? It's just focus on MPC and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So like, we used to have two other language subjects, like, for us to clear the intermediate board, like Andhra Pradesh intermediate board. So we used to do those two subjects in last 10-15 days before examination. That's all. I never met my Sanskrit sir or English sir before, till 20 days of the board intermediate examinations.
Do you ever feel like you missed a part of your childhood during this phase?
Yeah, yeah. Like, I feel that many times. Like, I generally sometimes, like, when I see my cousins, or like my nephew is like reaching 10th class now, right? She is going to face similar rigor. Like, she is like, I want to do medicine and all, like the same similar rigor as she is going to face. I feel very empathetic, and I feel very sorry. Like, I'm trying her to get out of her, like, basically, no, there are other courses you can do rather than doing all this, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, I feel bad that a good time of my life has been, like, spent for these examinations.
So Guptaji, you're saying about challenges about repeat batch as well as some medical students that yeah in Andhra. So what was that like?
Yeah, so, like, basically there is a lot of emphasis, even from students and even from, parents, and right, you need to crack this at the end of the day, right? So even my wife, she's a doctor now, like, she's a dentist. So she has gone the trigger twice. Like, basically, she was a repeat student for medicine. Like, sometimes she mentions, like, how tough was it, how tough was the college life for her during that plus one and plus two. even for them it is not very easy. Like the medical students and medical rigor is also not easy. Even considering perspectives from like girls perspective, like wasn't also very easy, right? Like the students, girl students who were going through the same rigor of to getting into IITs and medicine. Like I remember my wife used to mention how bad the used washrooms are, like many concerns regarding like lot of shared spaces concerns for girl students also.
Any specific areas that your wife felt that it could be improved by a lot, and with
So
small
maybe
efforts even? Huh.
some sanitary cases also, like
Mhm.
how clean the washrooms can be, maybe how good the facilities can be, maybe not pressurizing girl students that much, or like maybe certain counseling facilities for them, right? Basically, I personally feel there is a requirement for both boys and girl students in this area. Maybe proper counseling during that 11th and 12th class, right? Maybe all of the students, like all students are not taking that rigor willingly, right? Some students are like just following through whatever their parents want them to do. So maybe some counseling classes, or like some help from some seniors, or like some help from people who understand them better. Maybe getting constant counseling from some doctor, or like maybe improving hygiene conditions, like getting regular treatments and checks in place.
Very important point. So she studied near to you. Like, how was the
No,
children?
like she studied in Andhra Pradesh only. We did our schooling together.
Okay,
We were in school till 10th class together.
Gudivada mein.
Yeah, Gudivada only. She is also from Gudivada. Yeah.
And whether she also went through. Did she prepare IIT के
She
लिए
prepared,
भी?
she prepared
Medical
for
NEET.
BPC. She has taken
अच्छा.
biology, physics, and chemistry.
हाँ हाँ.
State level entrance examinations are there for medical. She cleared those, and she was into dentistry.
Okay. So your family has an engineer,
Yeah,
doctor, also now businessman.
my dad is a businessman though.
अच्छा. No pressure on your kid.
No.
Okay, coming to the IIT exam day, right? So all your 4 years of preparation has to be materialized in that one day. And how was that day like for you? Do you remember the entire
I,
time?
I remember that. I wasn't able to sleep the day before completely. Like, I think I slept for 1 hour or 1.5 hour at max. Uh, so we used to have this, like early in the morning. They used to give us curd rice as breakfast. For before the examinations, curd rice and idli is the breakfast that you'll get, like for all the examinations, right? So and even before the day before, like we were asked to sleep early. Like we generally sleep around 10, after 10:30, like 10 till 10:30 we had study hours and all. So we were asked to sleep after around 8, 7:38. Like people are saying ki you go back to sleep, you go to bed and all. I remember that situation. Like there is a room with 12 of us, right, which we used to share, and like none of us are sleeping. I don't think none of us slept that day. Everyone is so tensed. Like people were reminiscing ki yaar, if it is better if I get a question from static electricity, if we get a passage from kinematics rather than some physical chemistry or something like that. That day was really a nightmare, right? Like all ifs and buts, like for the all 5 years effort that you have done in your life, what if not, right? What if you don't end up in a good IIT, or like what if the dream rank that you dreamt for, like the top 100 or top 1,000, like whatever you dreamt for, what if you don't get and land up there, right? What if the day wasn't yours? I think I slept for 1.5 hour. Generally I was strong at physics. Out of all three subjects, I was hoping that physics paper should be tough so that I can make the difference. And all. So yeah, somehow that day before the examination was very very scary.
Mhm.
Coming to the day of the exam, right? Like that day was even more scarier. you know. I was like, my examination center was almost like 15 kilometers away from where we were staying, like the college or the hostel that we are staying in. So we were our batch was supposed to leave earlier in the morning, because, like, to take care of traffic scenarios and all, right? So like I was mentioning, idli and the
Curd
curd.
rice, yeah.
We could hardly eat anything of that, and reached the we reached the center very early, you know. It was a law college in Vijayawada where my examination center was. And the center was so bad, like basically the fans aren't so ain't working, right? I am generally like, May and like March, April, May are like very bad in these areas, right? Like it is very hot, and you'll sweat like anything, right? I generally sweat a lot. 40 45 people, there is one fan in the center.
Mhm.
And it is like, it's so hot around. And that's how my IIT exam has started.
Wow. So we'll come to the IIT Result Day Experience. So, there's a certain time period between the exam and the result, and how were you feeling on the day of the result?
So on the day of the examination, right after the examination only, I had few realizations, right?
Mhm.
Like basically we used to have that two paper wala setup, right? Like
Mhm.
9 to 12 and 2 to 5 was the setup that we used to like write examinations on. So I did well. Like I was mentioning that, physics is my strength. If you remember, our paper was like, physics was sort of easy that day, right? So all my dreams were like, physics should be tough and I should create the difference of marks were gone, right? So like I wasn't very sure till the moment I came down for lunch, right? Like that 9 to 12, after that 9 to 12 examination, we had that lunch break for 2 hours. So I was waiting for others response. I don't know, like I did decent in physics, right? I'm not sure whether other people have done it decently or not, right? So I was hoping, I was hoping that other people didn't do good, so that, I end up in a better, very better place, right? So, like, I realized during lunchtime that, physics is easy in the first paper, right? And everyone's expectation is that physics is going to be easy for the second paper also. That is when, like, I started, like, I felt more scared, you know, that, I did average in chemistry and maths. I did good on physics, but everyone did the same, right? Like, then the reality did hit me, saying that, everyone did good in physics, it's not just you, right? So I decided saying that, for the second paper I'll spend only 40 minutes for physics, right? I'll spend that extra time for maths and chemistry, so that I'll create that edge, right? And in the second paper, like, there was one easy question. If you remember, like, we used to have these matching sets, right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know uh, like one option could have multiple answers and all, right? So one matching set was regarding waves, right? So the reason I remember this so candidly is that I have lost very good marks in this particular case. That is the reason I remember that. So I'm always confused with this transverse and longitudinal waves, right?
Okay.
These light waves and sound waves, like I'm always confused. Like I still get confused, which is longitudinal, which is transverse, right? So after the entire calculation, you're supposed to select for sound waves, which is longitudinal, whether it is longitudinal or transverse, along with measuring amplitude, frequency, everything, right? So what I have done is, like, I have solved the entire matching set. I have marked longitudinal in the case of transverse and transverse in the case of longitudinal. And basically, I lost all the entire 8 marks, right? Along with the, I think there were no negative marks for matching that time, right? It hit so hard, like, after the examination. And like, even till date, I remember this so candidly. Even my wife still sort of, pulls my leg, saying that you don't remember which is transverse and which is longitudinal, right? So that phase, like, immediately after the examination, we were checking the papers, like we were getting out of the keys, and everyone was like, how did you do this wrong? I was very scared, saying ki, just after the examination, that the counting itself got very scary. Things got really bad. Like, I was crying. I called up my mom, saying that, I lost all these marks, like physics is my strength and all, but I couldn't do well in physics. So that was my state of mind at that point of time. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and result day experience?
Result day experience was like, after the counting itself, I was very clear that I am not going to get to top 100, right? So like I was targeting for that top 100 mark rank, like right from all the 2 years. Like we were pushed so much that you will land up somewhere in top 100 and all. So I was expecting somewhere around 350, 400 ranks, right? And at that point of time, like only one uncle of mine had this internet connection, and like used to use computer and all. So like I called the like I have shared my hall ticket number and everything with him, right? The before day only. So I got a call from him. So I was so scared. I was so scared. Like when I answered the call, he's like, "Okay, you are through, and your rank is 850." So I was so scared. Like 853 is like, that's not what I targeted. But I immediately ran into my washroom and I like locked myself in, and I started crying so bad. That was the amount of pressure that we were put through all the 5 years. Like getting into that good rank nationally also wasn't satisfactory enough, right? Like you felt like I felt so bad with my rank and all. Like my father came down and he started knocking the door saying, "You are good, like come out, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine karke." So that was my result day experience.
Okay. Do you remember if there were any celebrations or mostly were you just sad?
I was crying. My father and mother were happy. Like my parents were happy. I was crying with for my rank. But later on, like there was a small felicitation from my schooling, like where I have completed till 10th standard. Like after a week or so, we had this felicitation for all the people who cleared through IITs, or like the ranks that we got. So that is when I felt some happy, like somewhere it felt okay. I had done something okay, which which I can feel proud about myself.
Okay. I'll ask you about very specifically three tips that helped you, majorly during those 2 years of preparation.
Yeah. So one thing I think helped me a lot is basically looking at things that I go wrong, like I do wrong, right? Like let's assume I did a paper this week, right? I have not done good in chemistry, right? Where am I lacking in chemistry, or like where am I lacking in physics, right? Which topic am I lacking in physics? I think that is something that will help anyone. I think that must be go to place. Like we sometimes feel bad to look at what we have done wrong and all, but I think we need to evaluate, and like any student like who is preparing should look and evaluate where he or she is going wrong, and try and work on that area so that they improve better. I think that really helped me. In my first year of my preparation, I used to feel like wherever I lost marks, I used to feel like this is not my area. I don't look at it like I have lost it, so I'm not interested in and all. But after some time, like in my second year, I started realizing, why am I doing the same mistake again and again? Like, similar kind of questions. Like, why am I failing on the similar kind of topics? What if this is the question that is going to come in IIT? Like, we can't skip at that moment, right? Like that is when I realized, spending time on questions that went wrong or rectifying what I'm wrong. And the second thing that I think everyone should believe in is trusting your strengths, right? Like as I said, like everyone will have their own strengths and their own weakness, right? Like all three subjects like can't be strengths for everyone, right? Most of us will be weak on one area, most of us will be strong in one area, right? While we are solving the problem, solving the paper, like maybe start with your strengths, right? Like
Mhm.
so that you have that confidence, or you build up certain positive energy, saying that okay, I have done 20% of my question paper already, or 30% of my question paper is done. I'm in a good state in the first half an hour. Like maybe the first half an hour you go through and skim all the easy questions of the topics that you're strong in, maybe the subject you're strong in. so that you can skim at least 20, 15 to 20% of the questions, and you can be done with that, right? Maybe that will give you certain confidence. That is the second tip I would give. The third is basically, don't look your weakness as some scary booth or something. There are always people who you can reach out to, your teachers, your friends, or anyone, right, who will help you with that weakness. Like maybe some people take it too hard, right? Like what if people get to know that this is not my strength, right? I used to personally feel that way. Like certain parts of chemistry I used to not understand, right? Whenever if I wanted to ask someone, I used to feel low, saying that what will he think of me, right, if I don't know this
Yeah.
or not. I don't think anyone should feel that way. When you are especially preparing for this kind of competitive examinations, there is always scope for improvement, right? You need to come out and say that, okay, this is my weakness. I want to build, I want to understand this more, I want to learn this more, right? Reach out to the teacher, reach out to your friends who do good in that area. Maybe that will actually help in improving your weakness, and maybe it gets converted as your strength. You never know
Mhm.
once you crack that trick. That's all. I think these three tips helped me.
Great.
Question.
Nice suggestions. Thanks, Guptaji.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Then after your result day, there comes a certain time period during which you'll have to choose the IIT as well as the department. So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
did you go about that process?
Okay. So basically, I was very sure about few things, right? And if you ask me right now, I'm not sure why I was so sure that time. So I was so sure that I would want to get into electrical, right? Like something related to current electricity
Mhm.
questions, static electricity questions in IIT JE examination, right? They used to be like so interesting, and solving those questions used to give me a lot of happiness back then, right? So I always felt that physics or like electricity is something that will solve you, like that will take you to places, right? That is the belief I had. I used to believe that I am very special, in like electricity is my strength, and I am very special. I'm born to solve electrical problems is what I used to feel. So I was always sure that I'm going to do some electrical engineering, right? I'm not going to compromise on that branch wala part, right? So my parents were so pushing me to take IIT Madras, because it is so close to home and all. Like it's just 5 6 hours. You know, all other IITs are so far, right? Delhi is so far, Kharagpur is so far, Kanpur is far, Guwahati is far, Varanasi is far. Like, why don't you choose somewhere near to home? But I wouldn't get electrical seat with 850 in IIT Madras, right? So I was pushing my dad, saying that I want to do electrical. Take like do whatever you want to do. I'm going to pick only electrical, right? I'm not interested in CS. I'm not interested in anything. I'm going to do only electrical is what I have put them forward. So that is how I ended up choosing IIT Kharagpur electrical.
Okay, great. So with that, we'll come to the end of the first section, life
Yeah.
before IIT. Moving on to life at IIT. So, Guptaji, do you remember how, the journey from Vijayawada to
Yeah.
Kharagpur, and what was the first day like entering such a huge campus which you had imagined for the last 1 or 2 months?
Yeah, yeah. So I clearly remember the day I entered IIT, right? Like again, there's a twist in my story here. So I have booked a ticket, like my parents, me, and all. Like both my parents were traveling with me because they were dropping me to college that day. So we have booked a ticket in Tatkal, right? So basically, the ticket was supposed to be from Yeshwantpur to Kharagpur, right? We were supposed to get a joining added in Vijayawada, where we are supposed to get into the train, right? So my dad said that, like, he booked a Tatkal ticket and gave it to me. He said that, like, when you are free in this 1 2 days, get that edition done. right? Get that done. Like I was packing and all, like I was so happy that I'm going to end up in an IIT and all. I forgot that I have to make the change for the ticket. So like later on, like tomorrow is my journey. Today we realized saying that that edition is not done. So ideally you can't travel if you are not joining from Bangalore, like Ashwantpur station. So like it was like my dad was so angry, I don't know what to do. Fortunately there was one more train, East Coast Express karke, which had vacancy the next day. So we ended up booking tickets in that particular train, right? And like for my fortunity or something, there were many students who were traveling to Kharagpur that day in that train. Like people were getting in from Rajahmundry, Vizag, like Bhubaneswar and all. Many people like along with their parents, they were getting into the train and all. So even people who were traveling to IIT Gauhati were also traveling in on that train
Hmm. Okay.
till Kolkata and all. So like that was like a different environment altogether. All these parents were discussing. They became friends. Is your son also going to IIT Kharagpur and all? I don't know how they're going to stay. Like we have this huge language barrier, right? Like people from
Hmm.
South India. That was my first time being in, like I went to North India once before, like to Delhi on a vacation with my uncle and all. Like that was the second time in my life I'm touching, like going away from Andhra Pradesh and touching somewhere near Bengal and all, right? So my parents are so scared, like they are like, no, how can this guy live this far from us and all. So the moment, I still remember the moment I entered into college, right? Like there were this steel letters written, Indian Institute of Technology Kharagpur,
Yeah. Yeah.
in front of our college gate, if you remember, right?
Yeah.
So I just felt goosebumps looking at that steel letters and entering into the campus. I still remember that moment, and maybe one of my happiest moments to cherish in my life, right? So and looking at so many people were there, like uh, there are a lot of parents I can see in my vicinity. There are a lot of students I can see in my vicinity, and people were running from here and there. Like we were asked to attend our orientation in Kaldas Auditorium, right?
Hmm.
We were asked to move to Netaji Auditorium suddenly, and there were some registrations happening in Vikramshila and all. I was like, okay, what is this campus? I have never been to a campus such big, like where you need to roam around on cycles, like,
Hmm.
right? So my dad bought me a cycle that evening. Like every parent was doing that, right? Like getting a bed set up for you, the bucket and all, like all the necessities like clothing ke liye. And that cycle also, like he got me that day. So roaming around in that cycle was a like different feel altogether. Like, okay, what is this? Like I'm roaming around in a college in a cycle. Okay, is this college this big? So yeah, that's how I felt the moment when I entered into IIT.
Okay. Coming to the aspect of IT culture, specifically for Kharagpur. So there were many cultures. You mentioned that it was your first time in Bengal. So
Yes.
how did you feel about the food?
Oh, that's
Sore subject, is it?
so bad, man. So bad. Come on. So the first day we had breakfast in Tikka. You remember the Tikka circle, right? Like the Tikka.
Yeah.
I ordered some dosa or something, and there was some. I remember some of professors or someone from like core Bengal were sitting in the next table to us. Like they ordered puri and rasgulla together. I was like, uh, they were eating puri with rasgulla. Like I have seen that for the first time in my life. I was so shocked. I was like, okay, this is how people eat here. And looking at the dosa that we used to get in Tikka, I was like, okay, is this the dosa that I'm supposed to eat for next 4 years? Okay, I'm preparing for myself like for this. All right. So the food was like, it's a very quite different from what we used to have in Andhra Pradesh, like, right? And mess food was, like or bad है, मतलब वो like and like for the first time if you are tasting it, right, like it's very tough also to adjust to that particular taste. Maybe like by the time we are coming to the fourth year and all, we have tried all those dishes or like all those varieties for quite some time, and we know we have expectations set ki हाँ ठीक है Saturday रात को मतलब we are not supposed to enter mess or it is if it is bangan, let's not touch the curry. Like we have like after some time, maybe in third year or fourth year, you have that expectation set ki okay, when are you going to mess? Looking at the menu, okay, I'm not going to mess today. I'll eat something, I'll eat Maggie or puff somewhere, right?
Next aspect of IIT culture, you did a lot of acting stuff, right? You and your band of four, uh, in
Yeah.
second year, when I got first introduced to you, a lot of second years were coming for the first time in that hall, MS hall, and we had this talent competition, I guess, to showcase, what are you good at. So the seniors would come and pick students from the second year who would fit into their team, like some for quiz, some for sports, some for social cultural activities, and so on. And you performed a skit with three others, and that was so funny. And even though I did not understand Telugu at that moment, it was not that easily understood by me. But even then, it was so funny for me to look at. And you guys were so good in their performance, and you got selected into all the acting societies based on one performance. How was that like?
Thank you, Somnath, for bringing all those things back. So yeah, like I think dramatics has played a very good role in my life in KGP. I wouldn't deny that. Like that stage exposure is something that is very important, which we got there, right? And that togetherness of doing things together. Like we weren't used to do all these things when we were in schooling and all, right? Like plus one and plus two, or like till 10th class, we were just doing studies and all. Like very rarely we used to have this sports classes and all, like sports periods also. I remember that skit very well. Like even all seniors were like very happy that right, for MS all, very very few people we used to get from dramatic background. So they were happy that we got someone who do good in dramatics. Like we got so famous after that skit. The entire four of us got so famous. Like people, every senior used to recognize, saying that this guy was the guy who did that skit that day.
I wore this t-shirt especially for you, मतलब वो, acting वाला.
Yeah. Thank you.
So coming to the courses, so how did you feel your electrical, course, the one you felt so strongly about before IIT, and what was the reality like in IIT?
Yeah. The reality is much different from what I actually imagined, right? Like the JEE questions about electrical were like much easier compared to the reality of electrical courses. And we know the professors of IIT Kharagpur electrical department. They are the toughest,
Strictest, yeah.
and the strictest, and the courses were also very tough. Like the course structure for electrical engineering in specific, I think it is like the toughest of all the departments that was designed. So second year really hit like as a different tangent altogether. Like it's the real reality check of who you are. You change your hostel, you get to start working on all other things, right? Like, and that is the time you move away from the common course wala structure to the department course, and you get to start entering all department labs. Electrical labs are really scary places. And we used to have these vivas for every lab. Like before you are entering the lab, like there used to be a viva with the entire circuit diagram. Why is this in this here? Why is this wire connected here? Why do you think this should be there? What is this? What is that? And all, like, oh, yeah, that is somewhat tough altogether, right? And there used to be vivas while the experiment was going on. Like professors used to roam around and randomly catch one of the groups and say, why are you doing this? How are your results coming this way? They aren't they supposed to come this way? Like, where is it wrong? Why is reality very far from what you're studying in books and all? And we used to have this end vibe also, while you're supposed to submit all the experiment values, right? Like the values that you have noted in your experiment. You have to get a signature from your professor and the TA, and we will have one viva at the end saying, what did you learn today? I was like, okay. So all these vivas used to be very tough that time, but yeah, all these are like good learning curves. And I personally feel like what we imagine as a department, or what we imagine as a course before entering into IIT in your 12th grade, is completely different from actually what you're going to do in those 4 years, right? I think that reality check is very very tough for any student who is 17-year-old or 18-year-old to actually grasp, right? So I think there is a good difference between what I imagined as electrical engineering is, and what I ended up studying at the end of the day.
Hmm. Yeah. So we come to one of the most controversial topics of IIT, which is the placement. What were the placement season like for you? You come from electrical, which is one of the top three branches, let's say, along with CS and EC.
Yes.
So what was the season like for you? Did you find it a little jarring or demotivating? And how was the experience, entire experience like?
Yeah. So for me, there were two placement seasons, right? Like for the internship one in third year, which was very small and like very few companies were coming up. And the second is basically the like December wala placement section that we all used to attend, right? So I think the first section was like very demotivating, right? Like there were very few companies which ended up coming for our internship process, if you remember, in our third year, right? I got shortlisted for few companies, right? Like I attended their GDs and all. Like at that moment of time, you don't know how to participate in GD or what is expected out of you. Like what is some moderator sitting there and looking for in you, right? How are you supposed to attend an interview? Like how are you supposed to answer something that that looks good in others' eyes, right? That is something that we aren't taught of, right? At that point of time, at least, like uh, maybe that itself was a very shocking and demotivating in itself, because like throughout all the 3 years or 4 years, like you feel like I'm doing good in my studies, like I'm managing decent extra currics and all, I'm doing good in my hostel, like I'm having good friends, I'm having good life in college and all. Suddenly it hits that you are supposed to be liked by a company or by some recruiter, so that you end up in a good job after all these 4 years, right? That itself was a very tough situation for any 20 or 21-year-old, is what I personally feel. But December, like the December section, like the day, like the day one, December 1st, and day two, December 2nd, and day three, December 3rd, like I got placed on day three, right? I got placed on into FICO as a software developer back then, and which was visiting us on day three, right? So on day one, there were both these CS companies coming around, and a lot of CS folks are getting placed, and the completely non-core companies like Shell, Slumberger, all these are coming up. So I was expecting, okay, if not CS, like someone like Slumberger or Shell will select me, but which wasn't the case. I wasn't selected. I got a few shortlists to these consulting firms. Like I think I remember getting a shortlist from BCG right back, and that interview was happened like 2 minutes. Someone like called me inside, and that person is like, "Where are you from? What is your name?" and all. Nothing. That's all. Like, okay, please wait outside. I like that moment was so demotivating. I was preparing for all these case studies, considering my shortlist with BCG and all. I was doing this case in point right back in 2014, right? Like I, Rudresh, and all these people were preparing for these case studies with a hope that we might get a consult interview, right? Like what if we get a consult interview and we couldn't crack it. Like I somehow got a shortlist, but that's how long my interview has actually happened. That day was like very very demotivating. I had two other shortlists, but none of them has called me for an interview, right? So that day was really demotivating, saying that like I have done decently, like I have a good CGPA, I have good resume, like why am I not getting into any of these companies, right? So day two, like the number of companies that visited us were a bit lower, if you remember, like only Flipkart and some other companies have visited, I guess. So I didn't do good in any of the day two companies, really, like because of whatever demotivation I am in, like whatever phase of life, saying ki, I expected a lot of myself, I like, but the reality is so far from our expectations is what you realize, right? On day three, I had maximum shortlist. I think there were around 17 companies visiting us today. I had 13 or 14 interview shortlists, like after those examinations and all. So I was like, today is the day I need to clear some or the other company. Tomorrow onwards, like I'm not able to, I won't have that energy to clear an examination also. But somehow luckily I could clear through FICO, which I worked for 2 years, right? So yeah, that was my experience. And I was there throughout the entire process of December there. Like we didn't go to the December vacation because, like, some of my department mates, some of my close friends didn't get placed yet. you know we were helping them to clear interviews and all. Literally we were that was the first time, I think, that NAB has started, new academic block has started in 2014 December, right? So we were tagging them along, saying ki, you'll do good, like carrying water bottles around them and all. So yeah, that was a different experience altogether. But yeah, that's how my placement ideology was. But I would want to mention something, as we were talking about placement section as such, right? It's not placements that is all that is important, or like all that you need to target once you are into IITs, right? Like there is a lot other than the placements that you land up in, right? Like you'll get many multifold opportunities once you get out of the college, right? Like once you join any firm, no one is going to work in the same firm that they have joined for more than 2 years or 3 years, according to me, unless they like it so much, right? So there are a plethora of options that everyone is going to unveil, right? It's completely fine if you are not going to get placed in, like you are through IIT, or you're one of the top IITian students, you're not getting placed. That's completely fine. There are still a lot of options. Like the current scenarios, like listening to packages saying that 2 crores package, 3 crores package, 4 crores package, all these are like very 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 creamy layer of the creamy layer, and that doesn't happen to everyone, right? Like I think that is supposed to be very clear among the students who are preparing for IITs nowadays, right? The market, like it is dependent upon many things. Like the placement is not just dependent upon who you are. Like if you are not going getting a good placement, it doesn't mean that you are bad, or like you didn't do good, or like you didn't do good in the entire 4 years, or no, that's not what the expectation is. There are a lot of things that you can still do, right? Even though you are day 10 placed, or day 12 placed, or even you are not placed, right? I don't think you need to take anything that seriously. There are a lot of opportunities. You are just 21 year or 22-year old at max, right? Like your career is still 40 years ahead of where you are starting, right? You can do a lot of things. That's what I personally feel. I think many of us have taken that placement season as very very serious. Maybe we used to, like, pressurizing us that much is also, like, pressurizing self is not that required, is what I personally feel.
Yeah, yeah, very
What
important
do you
message. Yeah.
have with your regarding your experience with ARC documentation and all?
Yeah. With ARC, I think I was placed on day 8. So I used
Yeah.
to say day 1, but week 2. So that was the case. And I used to go, it was a tough phase for me, 7 days without a job, especially seeing your peers getting placed in very good companies. Because uh, first week was the, top companies will pick the top students, and it was kind of getting clear to me that I was not one of the top students, and I was okay with that. But then again, it was like, an opportunity missed.
Yeah,
But then again, day eight, I used to remember there was a funny story as well. I think Professor Sudhir Kumar Barai, he was our placement head professor at the CDC. I think yeah, and he used to be there from morning till evening,
yeah.
till the students were getting placed, till the results were getting declared. So he used to work hard a lot. And every morning, I remember I had some of the other shortlist every day. It's just that I was not good enough to get placed. Uh, but
Something
I
like
used to
that.
visit every morning along with one of my friends. And the professor who I hadn't been in contact with, like he didn't teach any of our courses in EC branch, but he got to know my face well. So by the fourth or fifth day, he was saying like, "तू फिर से आ गया." So even though that was, I did not feel good at that time, but it was a very funny incident. Like you right now looking back at it,
Yeah,
that was good. And as you mentioned, like a very important message that to mention the 1 crore, 2 crore, 3 crore packages. Those are exceptions, and
yeah. Very,
exceptions
very
are,
exceptions.
yeah,
Exceptions.
exceptional students, exceptional cases, which are being shown as examples, and that is very wrong for any of the media houses that are publishing it. It's
Even
not the regulatory.
parents who are expecting their
Hmm.
children to do that is like it's not reality. Come on,
Mhm.
it's not
Yeah.
reality that you need to look at.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the last section, or the third section, sorry, which is life after IT. So, Gupta ji, got placed into FICO. What was the experience like for the 2 years that you worked there?
Yeah, I worked for 23 months to be very precise. You know, like I had very minimal knowledge on coding at the time I joined FICO. To be very frank, like I was good in the first year CS course. In the PDS, I got 10 out of 10, the DX grade. I was good in that, but I never went back and tried coding or all the different languages that Java or JavaScript, Node.js, and all this. I never had hands on in my college, like during the next 3 years of college, right? So the reality is that I was placed as a Java developer. I was one of the backend developers, and I was supposed to learn Java in 15 days, right? There was a project that we need to submit to our director range guys who were visiting us, so that within a span of 15 days you are supposed to learn front end, back end, everything, like right from DBMS, managing databases and all. You are supposed to come up with an entire application end to end all together by yourself. That was the first task that was given to us in FICO. So in itself, that 15 days was very pressurized. I felt like I know nothing about this. Like I have never written a HTML code with my hand. Right? How am I going to make a UI page altogether? And how am I going to fit some CSS in place or JavaScript in place? How am I supposed to do all this? But there were certain lessons, like there were some certain seniors who were teaching us and helping us through this process. So I think making that deadline 15 days actually made sure that we touch everything within that 15 days. So the irony was that at the moment, like today is my presentation, around 4 o'clock or 4:30 was my slot. Around 3:30 my laptop got broke. And people weren't believing me, saying that I've completed the project. People are like, okay, this guy is coming up with some logic. No, I've shown my screen which got broke, like because one of my batchmate who joined there like we were sitting together, but by mistake she has actually pulled my desk out and my laptop fell down and the screen got broke. That was my first experience with FICO, and FICO's first experience with me. But yeah, somehow later, I joined into this originations team, which is a lending platform. Basically, all these credit choice and all big banks use this lending platform to decide whether to give a loan to a particular application or not. Somehow I was put into one of these modules, right? And within a span of 2 years, I changed four managers. All my managers were leaving.
Were
So
they fed up of you, or?
that was no, no, they are fed up with me. It was my fate, designed that way. All my managers were leaving. The fourth manager was the most stable guy, like who I worked with for more than 8 months, right? But them leaving, the product actually helped me a lot. Like there was a lot of dependency on me. Maybe I wouldn't have learned that much of responsibility, or like maybe that much of coding, if there was my manager. I used to say, okay, go and talk to my manager, like I'm just sitting idle. What am I supposed to do? But I didn't have that option because my managers were leaving. Like there was a lot of pressure and responsibility on my end. So by the end of 1.5 year, like the first 6 months were very like I struggled a lot to get into pace with what the expectations of the company is, like how does products work and all, how does all this fit in a larger eco space. You need to understand all that, for you to. I personally feel that if you are understanding the bigger picture, that is how you will you can make certain difference in whatever you are doing. Personally, that's what I feel, right? So for me to understand that, it took me good 6 months, right? Where does our product sit, or like where is my team sitting in the entire product? What am I supposed to do? What are the outputs of this product or expectations of this product, right?
Okay.
So
And was
the last
this the time when you decided, okay,
Yeah. So after the 6 months, I was struggling after this till 6 months. After 6 months, till like for other 6 months to 1 year, I was very comfortable. Like I was solving all the bugs very fast, and like I'm making sure all the product is up to date, and all queries or like all the requirements are being met and all. And there used to be few product managers we were working with, so I always used to like what these guys are doing and all. Maybe at that moment I felt like two reasons, maybe, right? After an year and a half or so, I felt like I have learned enough on this platform. There is something else I need to do. Either I shift a company from here, right, or I try something new in my life. That's how that is one reason. The second reason is like somehow I got like that is when product roles started budding up in India, like right back in 2016-17. That's when people recognize some role called as product management, or like something called as product role as such is being designed that time. So which I found interesting, right? These two things were the major reasons. So I thought like either I'll move to another company into a product role, right, or like just in that sense, like few of my friends were trying out cat and all. So I thought like, okay, let's give it a try. Why not give it a try, and maybe with an MBA you can land up into the same job after 2 years, right? So that is the reason, like I tried out cat as such. Somehow, like I had only one shortlist of ABC, right? I had only IMC shortlist, and I could clear IMC interview. That was like my experience.
okay, how was it like? Let me ask you, how was it like going back to Bengal this time?
This time it was like it was more of my choice. Like before even writing the examination, I was imagining that like we are better judged now. Like by the time you have cleared IIT, you have worked for 2 years. Like I personally feel that I had better judgment compared to what I was doing after my 12th grade. So this time around, like I personally went through the cultures of the college. Like I talked to multiple people who were already studying there. Like even a few of our batchmates were there who were studying, who were just into like after into IIM just after IITs and all. So I talked to people from IMA, B, C. So I personally felt that C is somewhere KGP category people set in is what I personally feel. And maybe I personally felt IMC is the best suit for me. And fortunately, I got IMC call. and I was happy with that.
Okay, great. And let me ask you about your role as president at INC. I hadn't
Yeah,
gotten a special request to ask that question. So, yeah, you're.
is it? Okay. Yeah, I was the president of IMC for my batch, for 54th batch of IMC. Right, like the experience was tremendous, I would say. Right, so there was a decision dilemma when I was standing for elections for myself. So the dilemma is that if you are through, you couldn't go through the exchange program. Basically, people do go to the exchange program. Like a large chunk of students do go for exchange program. Almost like out of 450 students, like at least 150 200 people will get a chance to study in Europe, and few get to travel to Canada and all. So I had decent GPA, and I would land up getting very good college considering my GPA. So if you are into student council, you couldn't travel to any of these places, right? So that was one dilemma I was answering myself, like, is it something that worth it, or like should I go to exchange program? Why should I become? Why should I at least take part in student council elections and all? But somehow I decided, like, I felt that maybe this is a better suit for me rather than going around and doing an exchange program, right? So that dilemma has solved, and I decided to contest in elections, right? So it was fun. It was really fun. But during my tenure, like, we faced a lot of issues. Like, basically, there were many issues which the college faced. Like, there was a complete phase change in college. Like, the higher management changed, the director changed, even the board of governors of the college changed. So the way things were being looked at changed, and there was a case where one of our seniors have passed away when he was there in an outing. So that was one sad phase. One exchange program from an exchange program guy who's from Paris. Like, he is diabetic at that place, right? He wasn't taking enough medicines or like proper medication. He wasn't taking proper medications. He passed away on campus, right? Like, there were a few cases where students tried to commit suicide and all. So it was like very shocking incidents that I really faced. And I think the experience that I earned in that 1 year, like, I don't think I will get any other chance in my life to experience such different things in my life, right? So there are few sad moments, uh, taking thinking it back, but yeah, like, there were many good moments and like lot of learnings for us. It's a very good experience as such, is what I would personally
Yeah.
feel.
And you got personally felicitated by Mr. Narayan Murthy as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, true. Like, I was felicitated with a convocation award, like, for my like participation on campus as a overall student. So yeah, I feel very happy for that. Thank you.
Yep. And those who know Guptaji and have his phone number, this is his current DP as well. So we'll post it on video. Yep.
I'll change my DP after this.
So we'll move on to the next section, which is rapid fire, quick questions, quick
Okay,
answers. Okay.
sure.
So favorite subject before IIT?
Physics.
Okay. Favorite professor in IIT? I know electrical tha, but still, if you have a favorite.
No, no, I have a favorite professor, TK Bhattacharya.
Okay.
Professor TK
What
Bhattacharya.
course did you teach?
Power electronics.
Ah, acha. Was this your favorite course as well?
Yeah,
Okay. Take
we
my
used
next
to
question.
machines and power electronics. Both were my favorite courses
No.
in college.
Most enjoyable year at IIT
Uh, I would say third year and second sem of fourth year.
after placements, right?
Yeah, after placement.
Nice. Most confusing year at IIT.
Second year, very tough.
Favorite lingo.
Peace.
Yeah. Actually. So with that, we come to the end of the episode. It has been very enlightening in terms of how you were as a student growing up, preparing, and then finally making your way to IIT, and then again IIM as well, and figuring out life in between and after. It was very nice connecting with you, Guptaji. And as you all have seen, Guptaji, I forgot to mention one point. He was also voted the person with the most beautiful smile in our hall.
How do you remember this?
I don't remember. Okay, so again, this has been IIT Podcast with Somnath. Do watch out this space for more. We'll upload more episodes.